To Rabbi Zisha, who really put in Lev and Nefesh, heart and soul, in putting tonight's event together. I'll tell Chaim for schus for you and Vora and your family for all good begashmis, beruchis gan yocham. Chaim bracha. Peschim bracha, peschim malchus. There's a teaching of the chassidim that was repeated by the Rebbeim, our Rebbes. Teaching goes like this. There are two versions of the teaching. One version is the 18th of Elul brings vitality, brings life. The day of the 18th of Elul has brought and brings vitality into the service of Hashem of Anilo Dei Dei Dili. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me, is the theme of the month of Elul. The 18th of Elul brings vitality into this, has brought and brings vitality. The other version is that the Chai Elul brings life in Elul. What's the life that this brings? So I learned something this morning, which I think gives some insight into this. We're reading in this week's Torah portion about the gift that every Jew must give when harvest begins. Torah says that everyone must give their first and the best fruits, bring it to Shalom, bring it to Jerusalem, and bring it to the Bais Hamikdash, bring it to the temple, and there place the basket of fruit before Hashem and offer thanks to Hashem. So it says specifically, you should bring the basket to the Kohen who will be in those days. Bring the basket to the Kohen. And Rashi comments, you could only go to the Kohen in your time. So I was reading today in this sefer called shabbatshalom, a very interesting idea. He asked an interesting question. He says, you bring some fruits, you bring some grapes, you bring some figs, you bring some dates, and you're presenting this to the Kohen, and you're making this great and grand announcement. You say to Hashem, you've taken us out of Egypt, you helped us throughout history, and you brought us to the land of Israel, and now I'm giving you my first and best fruits. The question he asks is, what's the big deal? You're bringing a couple of fruits, you're bringing a couple of figs, a couple of dates. Why making such a grand announcement about these figs and dates? And he explains that the Torah is very specific. The Torah says, Va'anisa va'amarta, which literally means you'll make a proclamation and you'll say. He says, Va'anisa means, he says, you'll feel poor. What do you feel poor about? You feel poor about your Torah study. You feel poor about your prayers. You feel that whatever you're doing is Va'anisa. The word Va'anisa comes from Ani. It's poor. It's not the way it's meant to be. So you might say, well, Va'amarta, why should I even continue doing all these things if I'm not really doing this the best possible way? So therefore, the Torah says, Va'amarta, you should say it. But the condition is, bring it to the Kohen who will be in that time. Says it's Fer Shleimah, the Kohen refers to the tzaddik of the generation. And yes, it may seem that your donation of your words of Torah and prayer and kindness are paltry, are insignificant, and compared to the way you like yourself to be, and the way you hope yourself to be. But nevertheless, by presenting it to the Kohen will be in those days, which means giving to the tzaddik takes your efforts and the tzaddik elevates them before Hashem to have an entirely different kind of impact, far beyond anything you could do on your own. In a similar way, the 18th of Elul, it says it brings energy and vitality into all that we're doing. During the month of Elul, till now, Jews throughout the world and in our community, adding in Torah, adding in kindness, adding in prayers. But now the 18th of Elul is here. The 18th of Elul is a time when we come to the Kohen who will be in those days. The time that we present this before the Tzaddik. Today is the day that the Baal Shem Tov was born. And the day that Alter Rebbe was born. And every year on this day, these days are remembered. Not just remembered, but as the Arizal writes, by remembering them and talking about them, the same divine energy that came to the world when Baal Shem Tov was born, every year comes to the world again. And not just it comes to the world again, but Mailam B'Kodesh, every year the 18th of Elul is on a higher level than it ever was before. That means that however much light and energy came to every Jew till this point, now the 18th of Elul, the day of the birth of Baal Shem Tov, the birth of the Alter Rebbe is here. So it's Shnei HaMa'ir HaGedolim, these two luminaries illuminate to each one of us and bring where we were before to an exponentially higher level. And this is accomplished by coming before the Kohen, coming before the Tzaddik. How do you come before the Tzaddik? Some of us are able to take a trip and visit the Ohel and visit the Rebbe. Some of us aren't able to visit the Rebbe. But definitely by coming together out of Farbrengen, together with chassidim, it's certainly that the Baal Shem Tov is here, and the Maggid is here, and the Alter Rebbe is here, and our Rebbe is here. That's a l'chaim. We should be proper receptacles to the brachas and the atzlachas and hashpois and that they're bestowing upon each of us tonight. The simcha, the k'tuv le'vav, and we should merit tonight to go to Yerushalayim HaKodesh with Mashiach Tzidkeinu, taking from Mamish. L'chaim.
to Farbrengen. So everybody has to sing together. Ashiya esamecha, Farbrengen nachlaseva. Hey, hooray, 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 benase, hooray, benase, maraboyla. Ashiya esamecha, Farbrengen nachlaseva. Hey, hooray, 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 benase, hooray, benase,
Okay, please give your undivided attention to our keynote speaker tonight, Rabbi Zabi. Rabbi Zabi.
Thank you, Rabbi Levin. Thank you, the entire community here. Rabbi Zusha, with an I. Thank you for inviting me. L'chaim. When we say l'chaim, it's like a strong suggestion. Like, seriously, take it into consideration and do it. I was speaking to somebody earlier today, and I told him that tonight is a very special night in the Chassidic calendar. And he got anxiety as soon as I said that. He was like, oh my God. Well, Rabbi, what do I need to do? I got to go to shul now. How does this work? And I asked him, I said, what was that reaction? He's like, no, I was happy, but when we got to it, and a little honest about it, it was like, yeah, there was some anxiety. What does this mean now? So I told him, imagine you're stuck in a dark room and the windows have been closed for a long time. And I told you tonight we're going to open the window, we're going to get some light inside, and there's going to be some fresh air. That's what it means when we say that tonight is a special night on the Chassidic calendar. So as Rabbi Levin said, there's an unbelievable energy and there's a lot to take advantage of. And the only thing that's required is a decision to do so. So I encourage everybody to take it easy, relax, and let's do this together. L'chaim. So it's the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov, and it's the birthday of the Alter Rebbe. And we understand and we know the story that the name of the Baal Shem Tov was Yisrael, and the significance of that name was, and is, that when you have somebody who is not well, somebody who fainted, and you need to wake them up, so one of the ways of doing it, if they're not in a very deep, you go over to them and you whisper their name into their ear, or you say it really loudly, and you hope that by saying their name, it will penetrate. It will reach deep inside of them and they'll wake up. And in a similar way, we are told that when the Baal Shem Tov came onto the scene, the Jewish people, a large percentage of them were in a faint. It just wasn't going well. There was a lot of physical persecution, there was a lot of spiritual disengagement. And they needed a wake-up call. They needed somebody, they needed a force, they needed a perspective, they needed something to come into their lives that could fully and truly believe in them all over again. And the Baal Shem Tov came onto the scene. And in very, very small, subtle ways, he started going from town to town and going to the market, the people around, and he had one message for them. And his was that you should know that every single time you go and daven, every single time you say some tehillim, every single time you do a mitzvah, whether it's Avos Yisrael, that moment and that mitzvah and that tefillah is precious by Hashem as the greatest gift that's ever been given. And the Baal Shem Tov meant it. And when you say something and you mean it, the person who's listening can actually receive it. And slowly he created this silent revolution. I say silent because it didn't come with these grand proclamations. It came with connections And it came with interactions of one by one, and slowly people started becoming uplifted. The best way for me to try to understand what it was like for the Jewish people at the time, and more importantly, how vital was the message that the Baal Shem Tov brought to them. A couple of weeks ago, we had the Haftorah, right after Tisha B'Av, we had the Haftorah of Nachamu. I have a lot of technology going on around here. I feel like I'm in a studio. No, this is just, it's fine. Thank you for the moral support. It was very lonely here on top. So we had the story of Nachamu. The Jewish people just faced this unbelievable destruction. The Beis HaMikdash, Yerushalayim was destroyed. It's so amazing how in the poetry and in the lyrics of what we read at that time, we're mourning like the city itself. It's not just, the city is a living thing. And Hashem comes with the ultimate words of Nechama. He comes to Yeshaya, he tells him, I want you to go to my people, and I want you to bring them consolation. And it's a very interesting pasuk. It says, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, comfort my people. And then it says, Dabru Alev Yerushalayim, speak to the heart of Yerushalayim, V'kiru Elea, and call after her. Now I know it's beginning to sound like a Torah class, so bear with me. I have this anxiety when I talk that people are just going to swipe up while I talk, just straight. It's in person, but there's a mental checkout that happens. After 4 seconds, you're quoting 3 psukim, I'm done. But if you stay here till the end of this thought, it might be worthwhile. I guarantee you there's no ads. It's just a thought. So it says, Dabra Alev Yerushalayim, right? Coming with a message of comfort, V'kiru Elea, and call after her. This question's asked. If you're speaking to somebody, if he's speaking to Yerushalayim, why is he Kiru Elea? Why do you have to call after her again? One of the amazing answers I heard was that, when there's something in our life that we need so badly, it's like everything. When somebody is in a deep state of distress and they need a comfort, they need a loving gesture, they need somebody to come into their lives and tell them that it's going to be okay, or that you're doing amazing and you and Hashem are awesome. When somebody is ready to give that to us and we need it so bad, sometimes our natural instinct is to run away from it. Because what's worse than getting our heart broken is getting our heart broken again. And so we need it so bad, we don't want to take the chance. Or as I say where I come from in Brooklyn, don't mess with me. Don't come to me with a message of comfort, but then when I'm going to turn around next time, all of a sudden it's not going to be there. So Hashem comes, and he tells the Navi Yeshaya, and he tells them, Nachamu Ami, I want you to go comfort my people, but I want you to know that they're not going to want to accept it. You're going to have to run after them. Because you're going to have to build trust, and you're going to have to show them that you mean it. You're going to have to be there for long enough. And when I think about the Baal Shem Tov, the Ahavas Yisrael, the love that he exhibited and that he started, and we're literally here commemorating that. It created a revolution, not just for the Jewish community at the time, but throughout all of history. In all Jewish sectors, the concept of Ahavas Yisrael never looked the same. And in fact, if you go back, it looks exactly the way the Baal Shem Tov taught it at the time. Every Jew, period, end of story, forever and ever. There's nothing beyond that sentence. And the Baal Shem Tov came, and he came again, and he called after it, and he really showed that it's for real. And the love that Hashem has for Bnei Yisrael is for real. and the love that we also, by the way, need to have for our children. You talk about education, it's the exact same thing. When it's the thing that we need the most, it's what we test the most. We're going to test it, we're going to see. Because we cannot afford to not have the real deal. So l'chaim, and I'll conclude with a little story, a little mashal. A little mashal. I know we got the musician queued up, but l'chaim, everybody, come on. Stop looking at me like that. It's uncomfortable. There was a king. Tell me if you heard this mashal. There was a king with a son. So far, everybody heard it? And it's one of my favorites, one of my favorite matters. So the king with a son, he's traveling out in the desert. And what do kids do when you're traveling with them? Tell you they're thirsty, right? So the kid comes to his father and he says, I'm thirsty. And the king has a whole entourage and he has advisors and all these types of people, and he puts together an emergency meeting, and they come up with two solutions how we can provide water for the prince. One, it'll take 6 hours, 3 hours to get the fastest horseman to the closest civilization, get some water, 3 hours back, and it's done. This is what happened. I'm not making up the story.
Never heard of that.
Oh, so far, okay, good. And the other advice was that they have great engineers and people who can dig and union workers as well. I don't know, it's in the Medrash. They were unionized. And if they dig deep, they can figure out about 8 hours of able to have a reservoir of water for the princess, for the prince. And the king looks at both options and he says, we're going to take the second option. Why? Otherwise it wouldn't be a story. But the prince right away asks his father, why are you doing that? That's going to add another 2 hours to the equation. And the king says, I want you to know, right now you're traveling with me and you have everything you need. And whenever you want something, people are there ready to give it to you. But I'm worried that in 20, 30 years, you're going to be traveling this desert and you may not have all of that. And you might be thirsty again. So I want to make a solution for you that will provide you with nourishment now and will give you for 30 years from now. But the prince says, but you know, in 30 years in the desert there could be sandstorms. How am I going to know where the well is? And he says, I'm going to make a sign. And that sign's going to always be there. And you'll always know that when you come to that spot and you dig a little bit, you're going to find everything you need. And the Medrash says that that's the significance of the holidays of the Yom Tovim. And I would say that's the significance of Chayil. These are points throughout the year where we know that if we were to dig a little bit, Hashem set it up, that we have everything we need if we're just willing to tap in. So l'chaim, everybody. L'chaim.
Wow. To the crowd. Say l'chaim to the
Thank you. Time. A couple of weeks ago, I was studying a sikha where the Rebbe speaks about the man, and in studying it and thinking about what the Rebbe was saying, it really occurred to me. It really cut to the core of what the struggle between materialism and spirituality that we have in life. So the Rebbe speaks about how the man, on one hand, we know it was everything you wanted it to be, anything you wanted it to taste like. It was amazing. And not only that, it was extremely healthy, so healthy to the point that there was nothing in it that was pselos. There was no waste in it. It was just exactly what your body needed. On the other hand, the people were complaining, and they were unhappy. And yeah, nothing's new. But and one of the things that are mentioned is it was too miraculous. The Rebbe explains it was too good that they couldn't really they couldn't connect to it in a very real way. And the Rebbe says it's similar to the Chachma of Torah. When a person studies Torah, it's growing up in yeshiva. It was called Yama Talmud, like an ocean, right? You go in, you start a Gemara, you feel like you walk in the middle of a conversation. And before you know it, the conversation moves and shifts. And I know no matter how much they're trying to organize the teaching of Gemara and to explain it and build it up, but it's never going to read like an encyclopedia. It's always going to be there's no beginning, there's no end, it's just this ongoing flow. And that's part of the infinity that's embedded in Torah. Versus when you speak about other logic and other knowledge that's out there in the world, it's very straightforward. And the Rebbe addresses the fact that there's a natural struggle within a human being, that when they have to deal with something that's infinite, it's very exciting but not satisfying. Because it doesn't connect to me, it doesn't get me. You speak to a young teenager who is looking around in the world and seeing other things that are not necessarily Torah. And one of the reasons they'll say, you know why I'm listening to this music and you know why I'm getting involved with this? Because it gets me. It's me, I connect with it. It's my story. It's simple. It has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end, and it's what feels like I'm going through at that moment. But Torah has a spark of infinity, and Torah has something beyond, and Torah has purpose, and Torah has meaning. And the argument against that is, but that's not what's talking to me. So I'm reading this entire Sikha and I'm like, okay, wow, so how's this going to end? Why? This is all a pretty good argument. What kind? So the Rebbe says by the end, it's literally like, it was almost like this by design. Like the ending is like in one paragraph with 4 lines that turn everything around. The Rebbe says, all that would work if you didn't have a neshama, but you have a neshama and you'll never ever just buy into it. Because then when you speak to the person who invested in materialism because it spoke to them and come to them 30 years later, they'll say it's empty. And that's the economy, and that's the mystery of the Jewish experience. Yes, the fact that we have a body and that these things relate to materialism and it's there, no one's denying it. But we have a neshama. And the only way to fully embrace things and the only way to fully experience life is if we factor in and really allow it all to be fueled by the neshama. So this week's parsha is Parshas Kisaveh. And the Rebbe speaks about how it's directly connected. Elul, Parshas Kisaveh. And for those that study and follow some of the sikhs of the Rebbe, you'll find that almost every time the Rebbe started it on a special occasion, the Rebbe would speak about how the day, the meaning of the day, the significance of the day, and that we're all here. And at first, when I would read this and study this, I'd be like, yeah, you said that last time, and you said it the time before, and I know it already, so we know that this is the day. Now, let's... But that's when we don't listen, we're not paying attention, and it's not real, so then it's not. But when it's real, and it's really happening, and it's unbelievable, then we gotta speak about it. Because it's happening, and it's live. And the Rebbe speaks about Elul and Parshas Kisaveh, and this is the idea. Rebbe says that Kisave la'aretz, we enter into the land v'yerishta v'yeshavta ba, and you will possess it and dwell in it. What does that have to do with Chayil? And in one small point, the Rebbe says that what the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe taught us is how to be complete people. How we can really arrive and show up with every single part of who we are without having to leave one part behind. Kisavai means that you fully showed up in a complete way. V'yerishta v'yeshavta, that you're settled. And the only way a person can do that in this world with the things that we're dealing with is with the light of chassidus, of Chayil, the life of chassidus. The Rebbe speaks about the idea of life, the idea of chayis. It's not something that's outside of us. Chayis means the person themselves is alive. And this brings us to one more point, which the Baal Shem Tov really instilled within us, and the Rabbeim, and this is the idea of Hashgacha Pratis. And we know that when people would meet the Rebbe was always about what's going on right now in this moment doing a mitzvah, right? It was really about living in that moment. And I think one of the best ways to appreciate the power of Hashgacha Pratis, what does Hashgacha Pratis mean? It means that it's the immediacy of God in this moment exactly how it needs to be. So despite the fact that a person may not have done something great yesterday or the day before, we don't have to look at that. But in this moment, it's perfect. And I think the best way to illustrate that is I like looking towards the GPS apps that are out there. Waze, Google Maps, I don't know what you're into. But there's strong opinions around these things, and we're not going to get into it right now. And, you know, if a person sets out, they want to try from here to the bagel shop on Kingston Avenue. They have a very good potato bagel. Served till 12 o'clock every day, or until the potatoes are gone. This is true stuff, I'm not. And so they go out and they put it into their GPS. I don't know the address. I should know the address of the bagel shop. But and they start driving. Then on the way, they realize they have to go get gas, and they're not going to go to Mobile. They're going to go to Arco, so they have to go to the other area. And now the GPS is starting to tell them, you got to make a turn here, you got to make a turn there, but you're not listening because you know you're going to get gas, and you know it's going to figure it out eventually. So then you finally get to the gas station, and then it's like, okay, fine, we'll start from here. Okay, we'll have it that way. And now you're going to the bagel shop from Arco. But then you realize you got to pick up your dry cleaner. And you make a couple more stops. But never does the GPS say at a certain point, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. When you're ready to go, you tell me, because I keep recalculating the route 100 times. AI is not that advanced that it has attitude. It's like wherever you are, okay, this is how you get there. And then you made another turn, this is how you get there. That's Hashgacha Pratis. The Eibusher says, you want to connect, Kisavei La'aretz, this is how you get there. Okay, I'm going to take a detour for 4 years. Show back up, okay, this is how you get there. You can't get off of the map, and at any which point, you're exactly at the starting point to get to where you need to be. And this is Kisavei La'aretz, and this is the power of Hashgacha Pratis. Hashgacha Pratis, I mean, we learn about it, it's like that Hashem is controlling everything, right? And He's involved in every single thing. Hashgacha Pratis is the immediacy, the fact that it's right here in front of us, and it's perfect. We don't have to deal with the gamblers. I call it the gambler syndrome. You know, you put in $100, not you, somebody. Reuven, Reuven puts in $100, and they lost it. So it hurts, right? You're not going to walk away. You're going to try to get it back. So you put in another 100, and now you lost that. So for the reason that you should be walking away is the reason why you're going to put in a third 100. Because you can't, now I lost 200. That I can't take. So you put in another one. It's like, that's the dilemma of tshuva. The first issue that people have when they want to do tshuva is like, does that mean I have to recognize the fact that for the past 10 years I totally messed up? So I'm not going to look at. So what am I going to do? I'll put in another 5 years. Because to be able to look back it's painful, but we don't really have to. In fact, if you look in Igeres HaTshuva, the Alter Rebbe, interestingly, takes out the word charata ala regret. It says, mitzvah HaTshuva hi aziva sachet tovan. There's a whole sikh of the Rebbe about it. It's just letting go of what you're doing and deciding to do better. The guilt, you know, when I moved on Shlichus to Orange County, I came from Brooklyn, as mentioned in the potato bagel segment. And, you know, it's a lot of guilt-based Yiddishkeit. Not today, in my times. And, you know, I'm thinking, you know, I'm going to come with a message of chassidus where a person can be joyous and move past the guilt. And after a while of speaking about this, I had some people coming to me, especially those that lived in the harbor, say, Rabbi, nobody here feels guilty. We're really fine. So you could just jump straight to the joy part, and that will resonate. But we're not doing it. So we don't have to deal with that dilemma. We're exactly where we need to be. Here at Farbrengen, Chayalo, L'chaim, L'chaim, L'bracha.
Think about it.
Bye.
Chaim cover. The guy to mitzvah satamen, that's the motto. It was amazing how when the Rebbe took on leadership on Yud Shvat, Shvat, that was the message. He made it very clear. Like, one of the main disclaimers of what he made at that time is that I'm not picking up. You guys slack off. You guys gotta get your act together. This isn't one type of party where the Rebbe just carries everybody. And it's on each and every single one of us. He gives us the tools, he gives us the teachings, the insights, the perspectives. But what we're going to do with that, are we going to let it just sit? Or in the way of Chabad, in the way the Alter Rebbe taught us, we internalize the Chachma, Bina, Das. We think about it for more than 4 seconds and really try to create a change. Chaim. So, we all know the story of Pinchas. A little while ago, the parasha. This has never happened, but I've always, in my mind, I imagined if this would happen, what people's reaction would be. You ever sat at a Shabbos table, somebody asks you to say something on the parsha, and you say something from last week's parsha? It never happened. It's such a frightening thing. It's like the level of disappointment of everybody sitting around there is like, as if, I don't know what you said, you just said something from the yellow pages. Like, what are you doing? But if it was like 8 weeks ago, it's fine. Then it's just a story in the Torah. Last week's parsha. So the story of Pinchas is an amazing insight. It's not last week's parsha. So we know that the story, the parsha begins, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. You have any Kohanim over here? Welcome. Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron HaKohen, Heshiv es Kamasi, God says that he quelled my anger. V'hineni neisule es brisi shalom, and I extend to him a covenant of peace. And Rashi's right away bothered. Why does it say Pinchas' grandfather? Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron. We know who Elazar was. It's not the way we introduce people. What was the point of adding that? And Rashi explains that the Shvatim were humiliating Pinchas. And they were saying, Pinchas' grandfather was Yisrael. And, who does he think he is? His grandfather was an idol worshiper at one point in his life. The grandson should have a little bit more humility. Get up there, kill one of the Nasi B'Yisrael. So therefore, the Torah says, I want you to know about his other grandfather. He also came from Aaron HaKohen. So the Rebbe asks, how does that answer it? So they go say that one side of his family is... So the Torah says, yeah, but he has another side. You know that once you have one bad yichus, the other side doesn't help it. Like, it doesn't work. So the Rebbe here gives an unbelievable insight. You know, when people are very committed to mediocrity, they don't want anyone else to work hard. Right? You know, if we're all getting 80s and one guy gets 100 on the test, we don't like that person. Because, hey, we're all slackers over here. Don't make us all look bad. So, here's Zimri. He's doing what he's doing. Everybody's sitting around. Pinchas gets up and he puts an end to it. And Hashem says exactly. And now everybody feels bad. What are we doing? So when you can't take away somebody's action, because clearly he did the right thing, you take away their motivation. You say, you know what? Look, granted, Pinchas did the right thing. He did it for the wrong reason. And not only that, he did it because he's just a cruel type of person. In fact, he said, you know, I would have done it. I'm just not as cold-blooded as Pinchas. You want to know? His grandfather, he used to fatten up cows, give them these good meals, look them in the eye and give them their best type of food, only so they can slaughter them right after. That's who Pinchas is. So they said, look, this is how it went down. I'm telling you with the same gestures. I'm not going to say he did the wrong thing. Just telling you he's not a nice person, so we're not going to make a big deal out of it. So Hashem says, if I can have a word, Pinchas acted from his grandfather Aaron HaKohen. And Aaron HaKohen would turn over the world to bring peace to people. Aaron HaKohen was Oyev Shalom, Gered Shalom. That's who he was. And everything that Pinchas did came from the best possible place you could imagine. He did it not because he enjoyed it, he did it because it was right. And with that, the Rebbe teaches us that it's that same mindset that we need to have whenever we see somebody else doing something good. Because naturally, we're gonna want to disqualify it somehow because hey, we're LA. No, we're supposed to be chilling right now. We're not crazy New Yorkers running a Florida type of shtick. Just take it easy. Don't stress everybody out. But the truth is, it takes a certain level of honesty for a person to say, look, I may not be willing to go that extra mile, but I can respect the fact that you did. And to understand, and this is the real power of what the Rebbe teaches based on the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, that every single Jew is good inside. And when a good Jew, a Jew who is good, does something good, that's all that matters. Where you're going to say that he's trying to impress this, trying to impress that. Wow, you discovered America. He has an ego. Fine. That's not news. He has an neshama, and he's doing a mitzvah. That's the only thing that matters. And I think in the same way, it's how we look at ourselves. Right? When we do a mitzvah, do we take away its sincerity? We say, yeah, I did it, but I didn't do it for the right reason. I wasn't this, I wasn't that. Or what if we accepted the fact that we were really 100% good inside and we did a mitzvah? And that's good. And that's the celebration. And that's the power of Chayel. Chay is Chayus. I was quoting for the but this is all the same idea. It says the Baal Shem Tov used to love light. Like light. He wasn't into the, I guess 5,000 lumens. I don't know. What was it? No, not lumens. Lumens is the brightness. What's the other thing?
What?
No. The Baal Shem Tov liked light. And I don't think it was just like that he liked physical light. But when things are illuminated, when things are uplifted. I'll conclude with a story of a little anecdote. For those that saw the great Lag BaOmer parades, in front of 770 back in the day, the Rebbe would come out. It was really a sight to behold. I mean, there was one moment that always gets to me when they get up at the end of the parade and they thank everybody, all the organizers, and this and that. And then the Rebbe takes the mic and he adds, and I'd especially like to thank the children, the boys and the girls, B'nai Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Nosar, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, which was, it was like that. That's it. That's the Rebbe right in that sentence. Like it was clear. What about the kids who were sitting there in the heat for 4 hours with one little juice box? I remember it was brutal. But there was one year, one parade, Rabbi J.J. Hecht, and you could see it on video. You don't hear the exchange, but you can see the gestures, and then later on they found out what the exchange was. Apparently, that morning, things were a little chaotic. Things weren't coming together. It was a mess. And Rabbi J.J. Hecht was maybe a lot of dramatic, and he was freaking out. And I guess he wrote to the Rebbe a letter stating that. And the Rebbe wrote him back, or gave him an answer that calmed him down. And hours go by, the parade happens, it's over. And you see Rabbi J.J. Hecht turns to the Rebbe, and he tells the Rebbe, I'd like to thank the Rebbe for schlepping me out of my despair. These are the words he used. Schlepping me out. And you see the Rebbe responds, and he says, Nicht areis geschleppt, I didn't schlep you out. Ufgeheben, I lift you up. And the Rebbe picks up his hand. You see that on the video at that moment. We need to cut the contract with misery and schlepping zig. And as we enter into the new year, to do it.
And you see how JJ peels a layer in his face when that was said.
Yes, his face lights up. And enter into the new year with true Aufgehobenkeit, upliftedness, pride. I mean, it's when I was thinking about coming here to speak to Farbrengen. So I always go on after I say I was going to finish. L'chaim, everybody, l'chaim. Chaim Chassidim, Chaim Holy Brothers. Is there enough L'chaim going around, or? Because of the war in Ukraine? Some pipelines being cut off. Story? Save stories for the end. The Alter Rebbe in Igeres HaTshuva, he speaks about how, like I mentioned, when he defines the mitzvah of Teshuvah, he says it's Haziva Tachet Bovad, which means all you need to do is stop doing decide to stop doing what you're doing. That's it. No guilt. We don't have to beat ourselves up. We just need to So later on in the chapter in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe writes that in order to understand what basic tshuva is, and he introduces the concept of what's called tshuva love. Now I'm not going to go too far on this. Again, I'm always worried about people just swiping up and moving on. But what is tshuva love? What is that? It's a very high level of tshuva. And basically what it means is when a person recognizes that the mere fact that their soul emanated from Hashem, that's already a degradation. That's already, I gotta correct that. I gotta go beyond that. That's tshuva love. That the neshama goes deeper and beyond the point of even when Hashem blew it into existence. And that, the Alter Rebbe says, we need to understand before we even talk about tshuva. That's crazy level stuff. But the truth is, and the Rebbe explains, that we cannot correct, and we don't have the strength to deal with the struggles and the ongoing things that we have to deal with on a day-to-day level if we're not deeply connected to the very source of our being. It just can't be done. And when I was thinking about coming here and speaking for Farbrengen, what occurred to me is that the community here, the Chabad house over here, in the heart of Los Angeles, in the heart of a world that is so yearning to have so much, to have the Kedusha, to have the power, to have the connection, and we cannot give something that we don't give ourselves. We cannot help other people feel connected if we are not going to invest in that connection ourselves. And there's no, it's not a trick. It's a fact. If we don't nourish ourselves, so we don't give ourselves the nourishment and learn the Torah and feel that connection, then we're never going to be able to go and to be able to carry that on further. There's a famous story. There was one time a great Rebbe that he used to travel to the mikveh. It was over a mountain. It was very slippery and very treacherous. And he's going, and the chassid, it was always like an amazing thing. The chassidim were always amazed. Like, look what our Rebbe could do, right? Chassidim were always excited whenever the Rebbe could do something. And there were these two people from another segment. They were like, oh, it's not a big deal. We can do it ourselves. And they go and they try following his footsteps. But as you can imagine, this one slips, this one knocks the other one down. They both go flying down the hill and they hurt themselves pretty badly. And they realize they need to come to this Rebbe and ask him for an apology. The mayor from Shalom. And they turn to the mayor and they say, we're sorry and please forgive us. He wasn't going to be holding a grudge against them, but they asked him, how did you do it? And he said a line that, I don't know what that means in terms of climbing the mountain, but I know what it means in terms of our Avodas Hashem. He says, if you're connected from above, you don't fall below. And this is true in the case of him climbing the mountain. And this is true in terms of a person working through